Welcome to Navigating Consumer and Family Law Challenges. Insights from SoCal's trusted attorneys.
Welcome to Navigating Consumer and Family Law Challenges, insights from SoCal's trusted attorneys with Amanda Hill and Sara Khosroabadi. With a focus on family law, consumer protection, and employment law, Amanda and Sara offer helpful, caring, and professional legal services and advice. I'm your host, John Clements, and today we're going to discuss credit report mistakes, fixing errors that wreck your finances. So Sara, first of all, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me
Yeah.
back.
Absolutely. Always love talking with you. It's always fascinating and engaging. So I'm excited to dig into it. So my first question kind of open up today is, what are the most common credit reporting errors you see, and how do they kind of happen?
So with credit reports, oftentimes people don't actually know how to read their credit reports. I kind of wish that that was a class that we were taught in high school. It would be great since we use our credit so much. But oftentimes, what you're looking for, if, as far as credit reporting errors, there's the glaring ones like this isn't even my account. That's definitely something that you want to be paying attention to. Or I get a lot of people who call me and say, "Hey, there's an address on my credit report that's not mine, or a phone number, or a name, a social security number." Those are all things that are really important that you do want to dispute with the bureaus, so that you can get that fixed and get it accurate. But some of the not so glaring ones are, it could be like a high credit balance, or for instance, they're saying that, Bank of America is saying that you owe $10,000 on a credit card, but in reality, you only owe $3,000 on that credit card. You've never owed $10,000 on that credit card. What that does is it messes with your income to debt ratio. So if they're showing a high balance of $10,000 and let's say you make $100,000 a year, that's about 10% of your income that's showing for just this one inaccurate account. A couple other things that we've had are, for instance, they'll do like a 30, 60, 90-day late on your credit report too. And the client's either never been late, or maybe they were 15 days late, but it wasn't really 30 days late. And then I've also, with the 30, 60, 90, I've seen them do it where they'll report it late for July, but in reality, you were late in January, maybe. And sometimes those ones are tricky to get off your credit report. It's maybe not as, you might not want to file a lawsuit on something like that. You still want to dispute it because the age of how far back you were late is really important. So if you were late on a payment 3 years ago, it's not going to affect you as much as if you were late on a payment last month. So they really do look at your history, they look at your payment history, and there is some grace there. But those are some of the more common things that I see.
So that's interesting to me. These errors that you just described, is this because of like just basically like someone made a mistake somewhere along the chain, or are these things all automated and there's some other reason? Like, why are these mistakes even happening?
Yeah. So what ends up happening is, the bank, I'm going to use Bank of America in this one. So Bank of America, what they do is every 30 days, they actually report to the three bureaus. So they report to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and they give them an update as to what's going on with your credit report, with your credit cards, really. So I don't know if you've ever had like a Credit Karma alert, or an Experian account, TransUnion, where it'll say, your records have changed and your score has gone up or your score has gone down. That's because these banks are giving information every 30 days to the credit bureaus, and the credit bureaus are updating this. So it basically is like a straight shot from the bank to the credit bureaus, and there's nothing in between that you can do to get that fixed until it's on your credit report.
Oh, interesting. So then I guess that kind of, now I'm thinking like, okay, I'm looking at my credit report and I see a
Mhm.
mistake, or at least what I think is a mistake. Is it an honest mistake by a bank? Is it fraud? Like, how do I know? How do I tell?
Yeah, so one of the things you want to do is, even if it's an honest mistake, the Fair Credit Reporting Act specifically is a statute that's federal. You're allowed to use it. It's actually what governs how your credit report is handled and how you can dispute things that are on your credit report that are inaccurate. So typically, what I say is you want to reach out to the bank and say, "Hey, this is something that's inaccurate on my credit report. Can you guys look into it? Can you fix it?" I would simultaneously do that with sending a dispute to the bureaus as well. So Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, you want to send them a letter. You want to send them as much information as possible, any evidence you have. So let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say they mark you as 30 days late, right, for March of 2025. And you know you've made that payment and you have a payment receipt in your email that says, thank you for making your payment, right? You might want to send out a letter to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax and say, hey, I've never been late on this account. I wasn't late for March. Please remove this information. I've also attached a printout of my email and confirmation showing that I made this payment. Once you send that off, the FCRA actually requires both the furnisher, so Bank of America, and the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, to do an investigation, and it's got to be a reasonable investigation. So if you're sending them all this information and you're saying, hey, I actually made my payment, anybody who's looking at it should go, yeah, this is inaccurate information. And they should either be able to go back to the furnisher and say, can you fix this? Or they should just be able to take it off of their credit report themselves.
We talked about on the last episode that that's the law, and that's probably what almost always happens.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't for whatever reason. So what happens then? You've gone to your bank, you've gone to the credit unions maybe, and it's just not getting resolved.
Yeah. So if you've gone to the bank, you've gone to the credit bureaus, it's not getting resolved. You do have a right under the Fair Credit Reporting Act and under California's equivalent, the CCRAA, to file a lawsuit. And unfortunately, it does most often get to that point because you're one of many, many million, unfortunately, out there who have issues, who are disputing. And I don't think that the bureaus have the best policies and procedures in place to be able to make sure that they're taking off this information. They give a lot of deference to the furnishers. So, like Bank of America, like I said, where they'll ask Bank of America for information, and Bank of America may come back and say, yeah, it's accurate, even though it's not. So, you do have the recourse. That's why the FCRA is in place. We know that credit reports are so important, credit scores are so important, especially here in the US. So, you can file a lawsuit against the bureaus, against the Bank of America, and get that information taken off of your credit report.
Got it. And I'm just curious because I know from talking with you and other lawyers that lawsuits can be expensive and time consuming. Do I need to worry about even small issues with my credit report, or do I only need to worry about big issues? Like, how do I make that determination?
Yeah, that is a really great question. And I know that lawyers that do what I do, they're going to want to be able to explain that to you. So I would say pick up the phone, contact an attorney. 10 times out of 10, you're going to get a free consultation at the very least. But a lot of attorneys that do what I do, we actually do it on contingency fee basis, meaning we don't charge you out of pocket. We go through it, we look at it. And then if we file a lawsuit and we win, there is a fee shifting statute, which allows us to get our attorney's fees from the other side. So oftentimes it doesn't have to cost you anything really to file, especially out of pocket at the beginning. So pick up the phone, contact an attorney and say, hey, I've got these issues on my credit report. I don't know if they are strong enough to file a lawsuit. I don't know if I want to spend the time to file a lawsuit on these. And then we can go over what the repercussions of keeping that on your credit report is, right? Um, there are plenty of cases out there now that technically say, if there's inaccurate information on your credit report, but it's positive, you may not want to file a lawsuit on that. There may not be any damages to file a lawsuit on that. Or, for instance, if it's an address issue and the address isn't updated on your credit report, and you've asked them to update that address, it might not be something that you really want to spend the time to file a lawsuit against. But again, you want to go and talk to an attorney and get as many opinions as possible to see if you should be spending that time filing that lawsuit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the I think what you called what payment, like contingency payment, I think is what you called it,
Yeah.
where because that helps me out. Like if I ever need to call someone like you, I know I don't need to have a cash reserve to just pick up the
hmm
phone, or even to go to
hmm
the lawsuit stage. I could really walk away with justice and also not have to pay a lot out of pocket for that. So that's a pretty good deal to me.
Yeah, there's also a really big distinction that I think is important. A lot of nowadays, if you look up something's inaccurate on my credit report, you'll see a whole bunch of companies that are credit repair companies. They do charge you to send out a letter or try to get information off of your credit report, but an attorney most often won't. I know my firm doesn't charge for that, and so I think that there's a little bit of confusion there too because you're paying a credit repair company. That's their whole thing. They don't usually file lawsuits. They send out letters on your behalf and say, "Hey, this is inaccurate." They do kind of the work that maybe you would be doing when you're talking to an attorney, and that can get really expensive. And sometimes nothing can come from it. So you end up with a whole bunch of letters to the bureaus. Bureaus come back with their reinvestigation results that say, sorry, we're just not taking it off your credit report. And now you're out thousands of dollars as well. Versus, again, I know there's plenty of attorneys out there, especially in California, who will do it on a contingency fee basis. They don't charge you to look at your credit reports. They don't charge you to give you some advice and or to help you get the information off of your credit report.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for making that clarification because that's a good distinction to have in your mind. And as important as it is, I think, because we all want, I think we spoke in a previous episode, we all want to be heard. We want our story to be heard. We want restitution for being wronged. And those are perfectly good things to want. But it's not just that with a credit report, because I think if I'm remembering correctly, like your credit report might affect your ability to get a loan or rent a home or even get a job. Like, what are some of these very practical, tangible consequences of a bad credit report?
Yeah, there are a lot. In most countries, they are on a cash basis. You don't have this ability to have credit and to go to a bank and say, "Hey, I want money that's not mine. I want to borrow," right? Which is great. I mean, the United States definitely does afford people the opportunity to buy homes, buy cars on credit, where you may not have the cash to just pay for that all up front. But that does come with the consequence of your credit report is almost it's a reflection of who you are as a person. That's what the that's what the furnishers and the banks look at when they're deciding whether or not you're credit worthy, right? Am I going to give this person $1 million loan for a house? Am I going to give this person $40,000 for a car? They need to know that you're going to repay that money to them, because they're in the business of giving you that money and making money off of you by that interest rate, right? But they have to know that you're going to pay them back. So oftentimes what we see is, you may not be able to get credit cards. You may be maxed out. Credit card companies will do a denial and say, sorry, you either have too many lates on your account, or you have too many accounts in default, or in collections, and we just can't trust that you're going to pay us back. Another thing that will happen is you may get denied that loan, or you may get a higher interest rate. A lot of people don't think about that either. It's where, maybe you could have gotten that 5% interest rate nowadays, but instead you're getting an 8% interest rate, which can definitely add up, especially on a mortgage or on a bigger loan that you're carrying. So that's something that you definitely want to take care of and pay attention to. It could even affect renting apartments, renting homes, like you mentioned. If you have bad credit, they're not going to think that you're responsible, and they're not going to think, they're going to think that you can't make those payments to them. So they're not going to want to take that risk. A couple other things that I think are really important too, that people again don't think about, is you may have, American Express, for instance, they have this credit card where you don't really have a spending limit, right? They let you spend as much as you want. They're trusting that you're going to pay it back. But if your credit report, something comes up on your credit report, and you have this Amex account, and it's actually negative, Amex looks at that. So there's this section on your credit report that talks about soft inquiries. Those are inquiries from people you're usually doing business with, or people who want to do business with you. It doesn't affect your credit report at all as far as like, scores or things like that, but they are still checking in on you and getting some information. So let's say you have this Amex account, and you're now a victim of identity theft, and something pops up on your credit report and it's really negative for you. Amex can then come back and say, we're either going to pull that card from you because that's in our terms and conditions, or we're going to limit you. And now you only have, $3,000 as far as your limit is concerned. And if you use that card for business purposes, or you use that card for just life in general, that can really impact you, because now you don't have that credit. You don't have that ability to kind of have money available to you at any time. I actually had that happen to a client of mine. She had a $60,000 limit on a Citibank account, and she got a letter from Citibank, and Citibank said, we're taking your $60,000 limit down to about $1,500. And she panicked, and she was like, why? What happened? What did I do? She needed the credit card for business. Like, it was something that she used for business all the time. And she found out she was a victim of identity theft. So she pulled her credit report, found out there's stuff on her credit report that was causing Citibank to say, we don't trust you anymore, and to lower that credit limit from 60 to 1,500, which, as you can imagine, I mean, that's huge. That's, you
Oh
got
yeah.
58,500 that you don't have access to anymore.
Yeah, and as you know, so like I own my own business, and so
Hmm.
like that's a tool that you're using. You're not just going out and spending on lavish parties or something. Like, you're using that to do business things, and so that would be
Absolutely.
quite a shock to the system to be like, hold on a second,
Yeah.
I need to buy inventory for next month. Like, what's going on?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And again, it doesn't come up as often, but well, that actually happens very often, but people don't think about it in terms of identity theft and or things that are on your credit report.
Should have been clear to everyone anyway, but now it's been especially made clear. Like your credit report, your credit is important because it's a tool we have to have in our culture. So how can I monitor and protect my credit? What are the best ways to do that?
Yeah, I give this advice to anybody who will listen to me, honestly. But you want to pull your credit reports. Right now, before COVID, we were only able to pull our credit reports once a year for free. Now the laws have changed. You're actually able to pull your credit report. I believe it's about once a week. You can just ask for your credit report. There are other ways you can do it, like you can go on Experian and get your credit report from them. I don't typically like doing the online aspect of it because then that puts you into arbitration, which is a whole other beast that we could talk about another day. But you can always ask for your credit reports. You just go to annualcreditrequest.com. You can pull off. They kind of take you through each step, and you can get those three credit bureaus. You always want to look at what's on the credit report. I think a lot of people get that mistaken, and they just care about the score, but the score is not as important as what is on your credit report because your score can fluctuate. I mean, if you've got a credit card that you use and usually you're pretty good about your debt to income, or I'm sorry, your utilization rate on that, meaning let's say you have a $10,000 credit limit and you only use 3,000 of that credit card, that's pretty good for you. That's going to show the credit bureaus and the furnishers or the banks that you're pretty responsible. You don't max out your credit card every month, right? It's also something, if you look at, just go on Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax and look at what determines your credit score. That's something that is very important as far as why they give you the score that they do. So let's say one month you decided, as you have your business and you have one extra thing that costs way more than just the 3,000. You got a $10,000 credit card limit, and maybe you used seven. That's going to diminish your credit score a lot in that month. Like you may lose about 50 points on just that one thing. That doesn't mean that next month, once you paid off that credit card and now it shows a zero balance or a $3,000 balance, that it's not going to go right back up to whatever score that was. So that happens a lot too. People panic because they're like, oh no, I lost 50 points or I lost 100 points. What happened? And it could just be as easy as you just used too much of your credit card. You didn't pay off enough during that month, right? So that's why I say pull your credit reports themselves, look at what's going on with the line items, and pay attention to that, because sometimes I've had cases where clients didn't know about it because the account, even though it was fraudulent, the account that was on the credit report was positive. These fraudsters, sometimes they'll pay the credit card off because they want to be able to use it more. They just don't have access to credit or whatever it is. And then at the end, they usually stick you with the credit card bill, but they'll pay it off. And if you're like, wait a minute, there's positive information on my credit report, but it's still not mine, and I know this is fraud, you can obviously stop that negative aspect from happening by contacting the banks and letting them know.
Oh, so that's a great tip because I think I fell into the same trap of, well, I'll look up my credit score and I'm not going to get into the weeds because whatever the score is,
Hmm.
what I need to know. That's wrong. Thanks for correcting me on that.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to be smarter moving forward.
Sure. You don't have to check
Yeah.
it every week. I mean, it'd be nice if you guys did check it every week, but I would say, even if you checked it like every other month or quarterly, if you look at your bank statements, right? You go through that on your phone and you're like, oh yeah, I definitely did use these charges. If you don't, you should. Definitely, you should be
Yeah.
doing that
Yeah.
for both your credit card and your bank accounts. But treat your credit just the same way. Like make sure that you're paying attention to what's being put on there, who's checking your credit, who's putting information on it too.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, this has been, as usual, informative and just pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for sharing such great information with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Navigating Consumer and Family Law Challenges, Insights from SoCal's Trusted Attorneys with Amanda Hill and Sara Khosroabadi. To connect with their firm, visit knhlawgroup.com and feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And with that, have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.